nowadays you got to have that kind because people nowadays.
Before we get straight into the podcast, I just want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, Kirby GAA Star. Declan Kirby GAA Star Championship Journey. It's a series of GAA team children's books written by primary school teacher and GAA coach Michael Egan. You can check it out in the link in the description down below, of course, as well. Follow the trials and tribulations of Declan Kirby and his team at Smithgreen Gaelic Football Club, recently formed but promising GAA team. The book is now available in Easons and all good bookshops, so check it out in the description down below, and let's get straight into it. Yes, what's happening, everyone? Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. My name is Aaron. I hope you're all keeping wonderfully well. It's that time of the year again where we preview and predict the National Football League. The National Football League is just a couple of weeks away now. Well, I suppose, just over a week. So, yeah, kind of mad. It's come around very, very fast. It's been brilliant following the club action. You obviously have some Sigerson football going on at the moment as well. And, of course, a lot of pre-season games, which undoubtedly we will touch on throughout this preview. So yeah, look, I tend to make one of these videos every year for both the National Football League and the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship. We do ones in hurling, of course, as well, in the Hurling National League and the Hurling All-Ireland Championship. So stay tuned for the Hurling National League preview, which will be out in a couple of days' time. But yeah, we're going to be predicting the entirety of the National Football League, where every team is going to place, who is going to get promoted, who is going to get relegated. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens this year. It's going to be a full National League season. We're going to have all teams in one big groups of 8, 4 divisions, no group stages this time around, which yeah, look, I enjoyed the group stages last year, but I think it's good to see the full National Football League season coming back, because it does make for big excitement, and especially when it gets to the latter stages of the National League, when teams are fighting relegation and promotion, it gets very interesting. And look, these are my predictions. I'm certainly no Nostradamus or anything like that when it comes to GAA and predicting things. And if we actually have a look back at my predictions from last year, so I did a preview of the National Football League last year, and I know some of you lads probably weren't subscribed back then. So out of the 14 predictions in terms of promotion and relegation, you'll see on screen there 8 of the 14 predictions correct, and some of the badges you'll see on screen there, some of the crests are predictions I got right. So I suppose the most notable prediction I got wrong was predicting Cavan to get promoted from Division 3, and they ended up getting relegated. So that was definitely one that backfired, and Division 3 was definitely a tough division to predict last year with the way that it panned out. But yeah, look, we got 8 out of 14 predictions right last year. The big aim is to beat that this year. We want to be getting better predictions this year. So yeah, let me know your predictions in the comments down below as well. It's always good to see your insight into who you feel will be promoted, relegated, and obviously whatever county you support. How do you feel going into the National Football League, and how do you think your county will get on this year? So yeah, I suppose, look, listen, let's crack on and get into it. We'll go from Division 4 upwards to Division 1. So to remind ourselves of the teams in this division very quickly, we've Carlow, London, Leitrim, Cavan, Waterford, Tipperary, Wexford and Sligo, all in no particular order there. And in terms of 8, I've gone for London. I don't think this is too much of a surprise, really. London playing their first competitive inter-county match since the 29th of February 2020, so it's been a long wait for London to get back into the National Football League, to get back in, I suppose, with games, and because of the pandemic, it's been hard on London, and they've definitely been one of the teams that has been affected the most because of the pandemic. A lot of other Division 4 sides have been affected quite a bit. You think of New York as well, who haven't had a championship game since 2019, and who knows, they might not be involved this year. And I think the main positive for London really is just to play all the games, play your 7 games. You can build from there. There's no pressure really on London. I mean, there never is any pressure anyways, but I don't think they'll be looking at this league and thinking, we need to win a couple of games around like that. I think the most important thing is to just play your 7 games. They've kept Michael Maher as the manager, which is impressive enough to keep him in charge. He was actually the manager back in the pandemic as well, or a manager back before the pandemic. So the fact that he stayed on, I think, is quite impressive. They haven't won a game since 2019, and that was when they beat Wexford in the league. Look, I'd imagine there's going to be a high turnover of players since the league in 2020, and I'm not too sure what kind of players are going to be in there. So it's going to be tough for London, and I think the main positive is playing your 7 games. I'd imagine it's going to be tough for them to pick up any points, which is why I've got them in 8th. I would be surprised to see them win a game. I think it'll be a huge achievement if they do. And I think the quality in this division as well is probably one of the reasons why they will finish as low as they will, because Division 4 is a lot stronger this year than it has been in previous years, in my opinion. And in 7th, we've gone for Waterford. And yeah, look, listen, I think for Waterford, they're usually around the 7th position, the 5th position, 6th. They're usually in and around this. They were last promoted to Division 3 back in 2010, and since relegation back to Division 4 just a year later, they've never finished above 4th. So that tells you that they've never really been in contention for promotion, other than last year, and I think that was mainly because of the National Football League was structured. They were in a group with 2 teams. They only essentially needed to win 1 game. They beat Wexford, which was a huge win for them. And look, there were positives last year, and I was surprised to see Shane Ronayne step away from the Waterford senior football manager role. But I suppose when the Cork ladies come in, that's a huge job, no doubt about it, and definitely a huge job for him to take. So you can see why he took that job. In terms of the manager they've brought in, they've brought in an All-Ireland winning ladies football manager of their own. They've brought in Effie Fitzgerald, who not only won an All-Ireland with the Cork ladies in 2016, but he's also won a number of county titles with Nemo Rangers, 2 Munster titles as well. So, he's a very experienced manager, and he's actually quite a high-profile manager to get in for Waterford. And this is probably one of the best managers that they've had come in quite a long time. So, it's going to be a tough job for Waterford. Like, it's just one of them things where they just don't have a lot of other counties are in Division 4 from time to time are improving and bringing in young players and different things. Waterford just aren't blessed with that. They have to compete with the hurlers as well, and you see how good the Waterford senior hurlers are at the minute, and that's just one of the main reasons I think why Waterford maybe can't push up on those divisions. Look, I think the gap between 7th up to 2nd, I don't think is going to be much, and I could see Waterford winning a couple of games, and Stephen the Gooch Curry, the Gooch as they call him over there, Conor Murray, the captain as well, they have good players and they have a settled squad. Their team hasn't changed much since the pandemic started. They've kept more or less their same squad and haven't had too many players opt out and whatnot. So yeah, I think Waterford will win a couple of games, but ultimately I don't see them being a threat for promotion, so I've got them in 7th. And in 6th, we've gone for Carlow. And Carlow's an interesting one because their fixture list is actually quite favourable, and they might actually potentially find themselves in a promotion race to begin with. I just think it will be the latter stages of the league where they fall off. Like their first 3 games, London at home, Sligo away, Waterford at home. I think they'll beat London and Waterford, and Sligo away. They could win that game as well. That's definitely not an impossible game for them to win. So there's a real potential maybe that Carlow could push up and maybe be in a promotion battle, but I think for Carlow, they are in a big transition really since Turlock O'Brien has stepped away, and Niall Carew has been there. He was been there last year, came in late 2020. And look, to be fair, he's done a good job with Carlow. They were close enough to promotion last year, beaten in that game by Louth, I think it was. And, they have a good few players in there, but I think Paul Broderick retiring is a big one, and they... the whole hashtag Carlow Rising thing that was happening a couple of years ago, like a lot of them players, management, background team, they're just not there anymore. It's a completely new team, and Niall Carew really has to build up from the bottom. It's one of them things with Carlow, and it's one of them things with Division 4 teams. Like I don't see the young players that are coming through. Like, I'm not on the ground there. I don't watch club games or anything like that. So if you're a Carlow fan, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. What players do you see coming through there maybe that could make an impact? And look, I could be wrong on this, but from looking at Carlow last year and in the last couple of years, I just see the other counties have improved a little bit more. Like they've brought in better managers and better players, and better players coming through. Don't quite see that with Carlow at the minute. So yeah, Carlow in 6th. And then in 5th we've gone for Sligo, and look, Tony McEntee's men are coming in to this year's National Football League with a bit of interest this year. I mean, they're one of the youngest teams in Division 4, which could bode well for them in the future. They've definitely got a lot of exciting players coming through the ranks at the minute, and they're definitely a team that I think could get promoted in the next couple of years. Just think that this year might be a year or two early. Some interesting players to watch out for from a Sligo point of view. Pat Spillane is in there. Not this Pat Spillane Jr. I mean, it'd be a little bit weird if Pat Spillane lined out for Sligo, but it's his son, and I think a lot of people will be very familiar with him, especially both Kerry and Dublin fans, because of course, son of the absolute legend that is Pat Spillane, and played for Temple Now, played some club football down there. an exciting prospect that was coming through the ranks. All of a sudden, he's playing for St. Jude's in Dublin. He's working up here in Dublin, so that's the reason for that. And there was a lot of rumours where, maybe he might play for Kerry, maybe he might play for Dublin. And long and behold, here he is playing for Sligo. And the reason being is because his mam is from Sligo. So Sligo making use of the parent rule, which might be a way forward for a lot of the lesser counties, maybe. A bit of thinking outside the box from Tony McEntee, because Peter Naughton, who has been one of the shining lights of the Knockmore Senior Footballers in the Mayo Club Senior Football Championship and in the Connacht Club Senior Football Championship. He plays for Sligo as well because his dad is from Sligo. So, interesting stuff with Sligo, with the way they're really thinking outside the box, and maybe that's a way for some counties to I suppose, get better players on the pitch. I do think, there'll be a lot of new players coming in there, and they've had a high turnover in the past couple of years. Noel Murphy is definitely a player to watch out for. I was very impressed with him in that win over Leitrim in pre-season, and he's definitely been a player on the improve for Sligo. They have lost Red Oak Murphy, and that will be a huge miss. He's opted out, and he was I was watching some Sigerson Cup football there the other day, and he was absolutely exceptional. So big blow losing Red Oak Murphy, but I think Sligo have got a good couple of players there, and I think they'll be thereabouts in the promotion race. Like, looking at their fixtures as well, they've Wexford, Cavan and Tipperary in their first 4 games, and that will be tough for them, really. Wexford away, Cavan at home, Tipperary away. They've Carlow at home in between there, so some tough fixtures to start with, really. And I think maybe that will cost them a little bit. But yeah, Sligo in 5th. In 4th, I've gone for Tipperary, and Tipperary's a hard one to judge because, you're looking at a team that won the Munster Football Championship in 2020, in late 2020, which realistically wasn't that long ago. It was only about 13, 14 months ago, just a little over a year ago, and really since then they've just fallen off the ball massively. Relegated last year, and when you take out that Munster final win over Cork, which, look, was a huge achievement for a county like Tipperary, there's been a lot of inconsistency for the Tipperary senior footballers. They were thereabouts in terms of being relegated from Division 3 for a couple of years. They nearly got beaten by Limerick in that semi-final when they eventually did come through Limerick and beat Cork in the final in the Munster Championship. But it's an interesting one, and they probably have the best forward in Division 4 in Conor Sweeney. But I think the problem that we've seen with Tipperary last year, from what I've seen of them, was that they were struggling to get the ball into him. And that's kind of a main thing for Tipperary. You can have one of the best players on the pitch, but if you don't give him the ball, you don't give him good service, you're not going to get the best out of him. And you're looking at Tipperary as well, and Michael Quinlivan, Pádraig Luram and Emmett Malone have all opted out. Michael Quinlivan's a big player who's opted out there as well. Brian Fox is also retired, and he was instrumental the year that Tipperary won that Munster Championship as well. And you think that Colin O'Riordan, who was a part of that Munster Championship success, is obviously playing AFL, so he wasn't involved last year, won't be involved this year. So, their team is very different to that team that won the Munster Championship, and I just think there'll be a lot of inconsistency in their performances, and I think that's why I've got them in 4th, as opposed to maybe a lot of people that would have them in the top 2. One player to watch out for, though, is Sean O'Connor. He scored 215 in 3 under-20 games for Tipperary last year, and he actually scored 1-7 against Limerick in their pre-season win. So he might be a shining light, and if you get him in your forward line with Conor Sweeney, that might make up for the miss of Michael Quinlivan. But looking at Tip, they've been very inconsistent in the National League in the past couple of years, so that's why I've got them in 4th. And then we move into the battle for 2nd, and for me it will be between 2 counties here in terms of the battle for 2nd, and that will be Leitrim and Wexford. I think Cavan should have enough here to finish first, and we'll certainly get onto them in a moment. But look, it's a very hard one to call, and my heart kind of says that Wexford have enough to do it, and that they should do it considering how well they played last year. But there's something about Leitrim at the minute, and having Emlyn Mulligan back in the team, Andy Moran as manager. And with Wexford as well, they're one of them counties that, for as good as things are going right, they're one defeat away from a crisis and a bit of a howler. And that is the problem for Wexford. Like, I've got them in 3rd. The main thing is, can they build on, I suppose, that morale victory really against the Dubs last year, where they played very, very well. And they were beaten by both Waterford and Carlow, who I've obviously got a lot lower in this division, beaten by a point in either game. But the response to that was very impressive. They beat Sligo in the Division Shield. They then went and beat Wicklow in a Leinster Championship game. And they played very well against the Dubs. And look, maybe I'm looking too much into it. They also hammered Laois in pre-season as well. You look at Shell Maliers in club championship. Look, I think Wexford have good footballers. I really do. Like Owen Nolan, Robbie Brooks, Mark Rossiter, Ben Brosnan, very experienced footballer. So I think they do have good players. It's just about performing on the pitch, being consistent. And if they get a bad defeat, they need to respond to it the next week. Like, not let that defeat kind of hang over them. So, look, I think Shane Roach has done a good job there since he's come in. It was a very tough job to take over from. And I was very impressed with Wexford last year. So I've got them in third. I just think Leitrim will have a bit more, to be honest, especially with Andy Moran coming in there. And I like the look of Leitrim going into 2022. Emla Mulligan's back in there, huge forward. He was instrumental when they were last promoted back in 2019. And I think that's the thing as well with this Leitrim team, is they do have experience of being promoted to Division 3 in the last couple of years. Could we see Ryan O'Rourke come back into the team for whatever reason? He didn't really play too much for Leitrim last year. Reardon O'Rourke is another player to watch out for there. You look at Ballinamore, Sean O'Heslands, and I suppose how impressive they were in the club championships this year. So, Leitrim are looking pretty good, and even when they were in Division 3, I thought they were impressive. They fought tooth and nail. They drew with Derry, they beat Louth. Although they were relegated, I thought they played quite well. And things just fizzled out massively under Terry Hyland last year. So, I think Leitrim are a good team. It's just about putting it all together. Is it maybe a little bit too early for Andy Moran? Maybe they're just not going to quite click just yet. Looking at the fixtures, they've Cavan up first at home, which might be a good time to play Cavan, to be fair. They didn't have Tipperary away, which is a bit tough. But after that, London at home, Waterford away, Carlow away, Wexford home, Sligo away. You're looking at that Wexford game, the second last game of the season, absolutely huge. And funny enough, Wexford have a similar enough fixture list as well, where they play Sligo at home first. They then play Cavan and Tip as well in their first 3 games. London away, Waterford home, Leitrim and Carlow away back-to-back. So, they've only 3 home games as opposed to Leitrim, who 4 home games, and their home games are Sligo, Tip and Waterford. So it's going to be tough for Wexford there, and I just think that Leitrim will have enough. I think they'll just about edge it, maybe by a point, maybe on score difference. So yeah, Leitrim second, Wexford third. And then first, we've gone for Cavan. Look, surely by God, Cavan are going to finish first in this division and be promoted. I don't think they'll win every game. Look, I think they will slip up somewhere along the way. I actually look at that Leitrim game, first out, away from home, first game. They might slip up on that game. But in saying that, they beat Tyrone by 15 points in pre-season. And yes, it's pre-season. Tyrone were away on holidays, partying or whatever, whatever excuses you want to make there. But look, and I know they only had 4 stars. We'll get on to Tyrone a little bit later, don't worry. But look, it was a big win for Cavan, and they looked very impressive in that game. And, something tells me that they're going to treat this league a lot more serious this year. Something tells me that Mickey Graham is going to really lay into Cavan this year and get the best out of them. And they're going to, have a somewhat performing year to last year or to 2020. Maybe they'll go on a run in the Tailteann Cup maybe as well. So you're looking at Cavan and you're thinking, surely they're going to get promoted here. It doesn't take a genius really to work this one out. And unlike Tipperary, who've lost a lot of their players when they won their Munster Championship, since Cavan's Ulster Championship success, which ironically enough was on the exact same weekend as Tipperary's Munster Championship success, the main spine of that team is still there. Road McKernan, Martin Riley. Haven't seen Padraig Faulkner in pre-season, but I imagine he'd be back in there, or maybe he's just carrying an injury. Raymond Gallagher, Thomas Gallagher, the spine of that team is still there. They are maybe missing one or two marquee forwards really to kick them on and take them to the next level, but they have enough to get promoted here. They have enough to finish in the top 2 at the very minimum, and I think they'll go up as champions here surely. Just looking at their fixture list, Leitrim away first of all, which I said could be that could be their toughest game, considering I've put Leitrim in second. They then actually play Wexford at home, so their first 2 games are maybe a little bit tricky, and they'll need to start the division fast, otherwise they could be in a bit of a crisis very quickly. Sligo away, Carlow home, Tip home, London away and Waterford at home. Good thing for Cavan there is their final 4 games are very, very winnable. Carlow at home, Tipperary at home, London, Waterford. So if they need to go on a run and they need to win games, I think they're very likely to do so. So yeah, I think Cavan will win Division 4. They'll play Leitrim in the final in Croke Park, and having had the experience of playing in Croke Park before, which Leitrim actually have had as well when they were in the 2019 National Division 4 final against Derry. But yeah, I'm going to go with Cavan to win that one. And I suppose right the wrong of last year's nightmare season. What I would say, if Cavan don't get promoted from Division 4, like, goodness gracious me, what on earth has gone wrong there? And I think the problems would go deeper than Mickey Graham and management. I honestly haven't a clue if they don't get promoted. But yeah, Cavan promoted, Division 4 champions. We then move on to Division 3, and I mean, Division 3 is a hard one to call. It really, really is. Like, I think, you're looking at Westmeath surely are going to get promoted here with how well they played last year and some of the talent that they have. But then other than that, like, there's a lot of teams here that I think would be happy just to stay in Division 3. In terms of, there's a lot of teams maybe on the slide that have lost a lot of players, maybe on a downward kind of, spectrum. So it does leave an opportunity maybe for a side to go on a bit of a run and potentially get promoted to Division 2 that wouldn't normally in previous years. So it's going to be very interesting looking at the teams in this division. Just listing them out quickly. You've Wicklow, Westmeath, Fermanagh, Antrim, Limerick, Laois, Longford and Louth. So you've a lot of teams there that are very similar to each other, in my opinion, in terms of ability and level. And I think this is going to be a very open division. Like, a lot of teams are going to be beating each other. And it could be one of them mad divisions where you've like 3 points separating 2nd and 7th or something crazy like that. But we'll run through it anyway. In 8th, I've gone for Wicklow. Davy Burke obviously stepped down there last year. They've brought Colin Kelly in as manager. Don't know a whole lot about Colin Kelly, but he's done a good job with Louth, and he does have experience in terms of inter-county management. Certainly doesn't have the same maybe CV as Davy Burke in terms of what Davy Burke has achieved, winning an All-Ireland with Kildare, an under-20 All-Ireland. So look, Wicklow have the usual suspects in there, like Shawnee Furlong, Porrick O'Toole, Connor Burns, a very good up-and-coming footballer there as well. So I just think with Wicklow, like, they weren't lucky to survive last year, but they lost 3 of their league games in the group stage, and they had a huge win over Cavan, and you definitely can't take that away from them. And they have the potential to cause 1 or 2 scalps here. I just think over the 7 games, I think the other counties are just going to have a bit more, in all honesty. And I think with Wicklow, they are one of them counties, and similar maybe to your Leitrim's, your Fermanagh's, Carlow, like, the level you can really go to, there's only so high you can really reach. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons why Davy Burke has stepped away there. Just looking at their fixtures, Westmeath away at first, tough game. They then have Fermanagh at home, Antrim away, Limerick home, Laois at home, Longford away, Louth away. So, some tough fixtures in there, and they've 3 home games, 4 away games from looking at it here. So that's going to be tough for them, definitely. So Wicklow in 8th. And as I said, with this division, like, this could be a division where I predict the team to get relegated and they end up getting promoted. And Antrim is a hard team to call, in all honesty. And I've got them in 7th, but I could, I have a sneaky feeling I could really be wrong with this one. Paddy Cunningham is retired, and he's a big miss. But to be fair, he was getting a lot older, and I think Antrim were probably, it wasn't like he was starting a lot of games anyway, but there has been a lot of players that have opted out there, which could be a reason for Antrim maybe on the slide. And yeah, it's hard to see what players are coming through there, in all honesty. And the problem in Antrim is you always have a lot of other sports to compete with, whether it be hurling, soccer or other sports. So that's a tough one for a county like Antrim. Look, Enda McGinley's a top manager, and I think Antrim are moving in the right direction. And I think they'll be very competitive in this division, and I don't think they'll get swept away or anything like that in terms of being relegated. And I think they'll probably more than likely bounce back next year. But just think some of the other counties will have a bit more. But as I said, there are a lot of counties on the slide here in this division, so there might be a possibility for Antrim to potentially push up. Looking at their fixtures, Fermanagh away, Limerick home, Wicklow home, Laois and Louth away, Longford home, Westmeath home. So, some tough games in there, and especially starting off away against Fermanagh and then home against both Limerick and Wicklow. A real chance maybe to get some points on the board there early on. And if they could win away at Fermanagh, that would definitely be a huge win, because I've got Fermanagh in 6th, and I think, that first game right there could be a huge game in terms of who gets promoted and relegated. The reason why I've gone for Fermanagh ahead of Antrim, though, is Fermanagh are just such a tough physical team to play against, and they're a very hard team to beat, whether it be in Brewster Park or away. Like, you've seen what they done to Cavan last year in the opening game, and they're a very physical team, a tough team. And when you've got a player like Sean Quigley in there who can really produce some of the best scores ever seen in Gaelic football on his day, like, he is a top footballer. They've lost Roycey McManaman, he's stepped away, so Kieran Donnelly comes in there. I don't know a whole deal about Kieran Donnelly. Looks like a bit of a lack of experience in terms of management there, but look, they'll be targeting the first few games anyways to, I suppose, start well. Like, they play Antrim at home, Wicklow away, Laois at home, and then Longford away. So they're 4 games that Antrim could win. So, if Antrim can go in a bit of a... Well, I must have messed things up there because I have... Well, yeah, Fermanagh playing Antrim at home. Sorry, I'm getting confused here. So there's a real chance for Fermanagh to go on a bit of a run there if they could win those games against Antrim, Wicklow and Laois. It will just be towards the end of the season where I think they'll struggle. Louth at home, Westmeath away, Limerick away. Tough, 3 games that they might struggle in at the end there. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Fermanagh. Maybe Conor Love might come in there as well. He's been an up-and-coming footballer that Fermanagh fans have been speaking about for a while. So, yeah, we'll go with Fermanagh in 6th. And in 5th, I've gone for Longford. And as I said before, I could be awfully wrong about this one. I mean, they could finish in the bottom 2 because there is a lot of confusion amongst Longford at the minute. Porrick Davis obviously stepped away. Biddy O'Loughlin comes in, who's a Laois native, and he his most notable thing he's done in management was leading Laois to the 2019 Leinster Under-20 final. So he's coming into a Longford team that I don't really know if he has a whole experience in terms of Longford club football or what players are maybe coming through there. And I know from seeing some reaction to this appointment, there's a lot of Longford fans that maybe weren't too happy about this. But at the same time, who else are you really going to get in there? And I believe they were the last county to appoint a manager in there. So a very well built squad with Rian Brady and Darren Gallagher. Oran Kenny looks like a good player as well. So I think Longford have enough quality in there to avoid relegation, and I think they have enough quality to push up. They're also a very experienced team in this division as well, and even we seen that last year when they were nearly promoted. So I think Longford will be fine, and Longford in 5th. And in 4th, they've gone for Laois, and again, this is another county that's in massive disarray in many ways at the minute. I mean, they're a hard one to call. They really are, because relegated from Division 2 last year, plenty of quality within the team, no doubt about it, and the likes of Evan O'Carroll and the very experienced Ross Munley, but they're a tough one to call, and their fixture list is tough to begin with as well. Like, they play Louth early on away, Westmeath at home, Fermanagh away. That's 3 tough games, and Louth and Westmeath I think are going to be up there fighting for promotion. So it's a hard one really to know with Laois really where they're at, but I do think they do have a good team. They, we've seen in their pre-season results are very up and down. Like, they got trashed by Wexford by 15 points, but then beat Meath. So you can't really look into pre-season sometimes. They've 19 new players coming into the team, from speaking with Damien Carter of Laois GAA TV there. Billy Sheehan is the new manager, a Kerry native, but having played with Laois before, stepping in for Mike Quirk, who stepped away last year. So a tough one with Laois, but I do think they have good players in there. I do think they have enough quality. And for example, looking at their home games, they've Antrim at home, Limerick at home, Longford at home, Wicklow away. I think Antrim, Wicklow and Longford, I could see them winning those games. I don't think Laois are going to come that close to promotion, but I think they'll have enough to finish dead centre and in 4th. And then we move into the promotion battle, and as I said before, I think Westmeath will finish 1st in this division, but in terms of who finishes 2nd, a massive opportunity for both Limerick and Louth. Louth coming up from Division 4 last year, and I think they're riding a bit of a wave at the minute under Mickey Hart. They're moving in the right direction, and as I said before, there's a lot of counties maybe that have in this division that have been bringing in new managers, players stepping away, opting out. I think Louth are on the up, and I think they're going to get promoted. I really do. I think they're going to be in 2nd. As for Limerick, though, I've got them in 3rd, and it's a hard one hard one to call for Limerick under Billy Lee, because they've done a lot of great work in the past couple of seasons, and I think Limerick are one of them counties in both football and hurling that have a lot of resources to them. They have the right coaches in place, a great underage setup in there, great training facilities, and I think we'll see Limerick. We've seen the hurlers have obviously stepped it up in the past couple of years. I think we'll see the Limerick footballers really in the next 5 to 10 years, start to bring through some top quality players there. Danny Neville has opted out, which is a huge loss, but at the same time, you're looking at, they have a very good defence, and I think that's their main asset in terms of Paul Maher, Brian Fanning, Killian Fahy and Hugh Burker are good players going forward as well. So I think Limerick will have enough. Looking at their home games, Longford, Louth, Westmeath and Fermanagh, and they're away to Laois, away to Wicklow and away to Antrim. So yeah, I think Limerick will have enough to be up there in the promotion battle, but I just think Louth are just a little bit ahead at the minute. I think Mickey Hart is building really, really well there. They were very impressive last year. They won every game in Division 4. They nearly beat Offaly as well in the Leinster Championship. You know, you've got a top quality forward in Samuel Roy, who now plays a number 10 as opposed to in the full forward line. You've got Kieran Downey, Kieran Keenan, Kieran Byrne, a lot of the Kierans in there. Kieran Byrne in midfield, I think, is a top quality player as well. So, you know, and the thing that impressed me the most about Louth last year was that they were having scores from all over the pitch. You know, 5, 6, 7 players all getting on the score sheet. And as I said, I think they're coming into this game with a lot of good momentum. And I think we'll see that. You know, they play Laois at home first of all, which I reckon they'll win. They then play Longford away. I think they'll win that one as well. Limerick and Westmeath in their next 2 matches, both at home, will be tough games. But again, they could win those games. They really could. They then have Fermanagh away, Antrim, Wicklow. So yeah, I think Louth will have enough to get promoted. And as I said, Westmeath in first. Look, I think Jack Cooney has Westmeath going in the right direction. I watched a lot of Westmeath football last year. They started out quite defensive in their first 2 games in the league against both Meath and Mayo, but very nearly won either of those games. Like, they're a very well coached team. They stick to the game plan, and you know, they're one of them teams that they looked like, you know, they weren't just defending for the sake of it. They looked like they had something to defend, and they nearly came out with big wins. And we could have nearly been looking at Westmeath as a side in Division 1 this year. And I know that sounds crazy, but you know, they were very close to getting scalps over Mayo and Meath. The problem with Westmeath is, for as good as they've been playing, they haven't really been winning a lot of games. Their only win last year came against Laois in the Leinster Championship. They won that game by 16 points, which is a huge margin, and when you consider Laois were the other team relegated to Division 3. But their performance against Cork was very impressive in my opinion in the first half. They played on the front foot. They switched it up to an attacking style. Thought Ray Canellan was exceptional. I'll always remember his point out near by the sideline. You've obviously got Ronan O'Toole, very skillful player in there as well. Luke Loughlin's coming back in this year as well. So very good team. John Heslin, you can't forget him as well. One of, you know, the best sharpshooters on his day in this division and probably in the country. So, and to be honest, I think they'll be promoted comfortably enough here, and it will be them and Louth in Croke Park in the Division 3 final, and I would go with Westmeath to get the victory here. I think they're coming in with good momentum from last year. I think they'll need to start fast, like Wicklow home, Laois away. Which I could see them winning, to be fair. But you know, they don't want to slip up early on and put themselves under pressure. But yeah, I'm going to go with Westmeath to be promoted and finish them first. Okay, so we'll go ahead and wrap this up here anyways. Thank you very much for anyone who watched, and if you could leave a like and subscribe, I would very much appreciate it. The Division 1 and 2 predictions will come out tomorrow. I decided to split these 2 videos in 2 in the end because it would have been like a 50-minute long video, and no one really wants to see that. So yeah, Division 1 and 2 predictions will be out tomorrow for anyone who's interested, and yeah, I'll throw up a Spotify audio version of this podcast as well. That'll be out tomorrow as well, so if you want to listen to it in full, you perfectly can. So yeah, if you could leave a like and subscribe, would appreciate it. Helps the channel grow, all the rest, you know the drill, and I'll see you all on the next one.